Hello guys, it's Dr. Beard, and joined by Paul, of course. And today's podcast is going to be about, this is really for those of you who are considering becoming functional medicine clinicians and possibly having your own functional medicine practice.
And we're health coaches.
Or in health coaches, but mainly for the clinicians.
Okay.
And so we're going to give you a little bit of do's and don'ts, things to consider, and talk about things I wish I would have done differently from the get-go.
All right.
But before we do that, you know what we got to do.
I don't take nothing that a doctor don't prescribe. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't smoke no bud, man. I don't do no drugs, man. It angers up that blood, man, so I don't do no drugs.
All right. So, a lot of people have reached out to me over the past several months wanting to know how I got started, what did I do, what advice I could give to them, because so many people are becoming interested in functional medicine, and I'm very happy to see that, especially when I've got a lot of nurse practitioners. You seem concerned, Paul.
No, I'm just watching.
Okay. There's a lot of nurse practitioners and physician assistants and even some other physicians who follow me on social media, and they're intrigued about functional medicine and have seen the light per se and see that it's a better approach to health, and they want to become a part of that. And I even have some people I went to residency with who are on their way to certification and have started working in functional medicine practices. So that makes me happy. But you really need to know what you're getting yourself into, because it is not as financially lucrative as you might think it is.
It's also not an established career path.
No,
You're creating your career path.
There are no guidelines. I didn't have anybody guiding me through this process. And in fact, my mentors that I did have who were already certified and introduced me to functional medicine, they were struggling too, and they still struggle to maintain a business. And most of them, nobody I know has a practice and they don't do anything outside of that. They all have some part-time gigs that they do, because that's what you have to do. I still have a part-time gig, and I've had one since I started this. Paul can attest to that. I've worked in the ER, urgent care centers, the medical director at AR Heart. Now I do some other part-time work still. I can do it telemedicine. That's why it works so well, but it's something that's necessary. So here are some things that you need to consider if you are really thinking about heading down this path as a health professional. So the certification process. You guys are lucky in that there's been a lot of changes, especially with the IFM process, where they no longer make you physically attend the conferences. You can do them all via teleconference, which saves you a ton of money, because I was having to track. Paul went with me. We'd have to book expensive hotel rooms, because they never have these things at cheap places. It's always like some top, 5-star Michelin rated, spa or something.
I'm laughing because Bo's eating.
Bo's chowing down. So if you hear the crunching, that's what's going on. And so, now you don't have to spend your money on expensive hotels, flights, and expensive meals. You can just sit at home now and watch it and attend the conferences. So that'll save you a lot of money right there. And each one of these, like with IFM, there's 6 core modules plus a week-long conference that you have to attend before you present a case and then take the written exam. And so those courses, they're not cheap. They're probably around $1,000 a course. Okay, so that's $6,000 right there. The week-long course, I don't know if that one was still always you had to attend physically. You had to be there. And I don't know if that's changed since COVID or not. Probably I don't know.
And the certification for the health coaches is a year-long program.
Yeah, I think that's a year long. Also, IFM offers a health coaching certification process. Little watered down compared to some of the others because they are trying to be kosher with all of the state laws about health coaching, what you cannot do.
Because each state's different.
Because each state is different, and then there are other certification courses like A4M. You might have heard that one. The integrative nutrition one, which Annie, our health coach, went through. And
Cresser.
Chris Kresser has his own functional medicine health coaching institute or something like that. So you can look into those, and they're all, they all seem to be pretty quality. Okay,
Yeah.
so just do your research when it comes to that, and just know that the certification process is going to take a little bit of time. I got in there, signed up for every single one of the courses as soon as after I attended the first one and realized it wasn't a bunch of quackery and these people were onto something. I signed up for all of them right there on the spot, and I had them done within a year and a half. And then I submitted my case and took the written exam and passed and became certified. And spent a lot of money doing it, but it's a lot cheaper now. So that's you just think about the certification process. It takes some time, and you will definitely have to invest some money. So just make sure that's going to pay off for you. And then, of course, there's the $350 annual membership for IFM. Every year you have to pay them $350. That's more than my board, my state license. It's not cheap. They're very proud of their product.
It's not that much, but
Well, it is when you start adding it all up.
for what you get, right?
So that's the certification process. So the next thing you need to consider is, are you going to have a cash model or an insurance model? And this one is, I can tell you right now, Paul and I tried the insurance route. We had a brick and mortar office in a very nice building. We went the insurance route, and it does not mesh well with functional medicine.
Well, you have to have someone administer with the insurance companies. You either hire it out where they're doing it.
So they're handling the collections and submissions of the
coding that you
the
provide.
coding and the bills and all that. So we hired a company to take care of that. Of course, that eats into your profits.
And then
The rent does.
there's no real good codes for functional medicine.
No,
So-
there's not, and that's
So you're really just
part.
trying to go for an extended visit,
Mhm.
and you need more than that, more time. So the insurance model really works well for a volume business.
Yes,
And does not work well.
And functional medicine is not a volume business.
'Cause everyone says, well, it'd be great once insurance pays for functional medicine. It's like, well, they're going to want to pay for a 10, 15-minute visit.
Yeah, and then you just can't really do a whole lot in 10 to 15 minutes via a functional medicine approach.
Well, especially because for every 10 or 15 minutes you spend with the patient, you're spending double that behind the scenes.
Doing the documentation, submitting the claims, and just taking care of the business.
Well, also with functional medicine, researching it.
Yes.
And it's not just the FaceTime that you're doing.
It is not that whole click the box on the screen, submit your claim, and you're on to the next patient. A lot of these patients are going to leave you scratching your head, and you're going to spend a ton of time, even after you've been through the certification process and you think you know it all. You have just touched, and it's this to the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more self-study that you're going to have to do, and that's where I found it still is frustrating for me. I'm like, I need more time just to sit around and study.
Mm-hmm.
It never ends. And so the insurance model, in my opinion, does not work well at all for functional medicine. It's just not set up for it. You are going to be thinking much differently than you were when you were in the conventional medicine model. You're going to get frustrated with the diagnosis codes. You're going to want to order the specialty tests that are very popular with functional medicine practitioners, and the insurance companies don't want to pay for them. And then when they do want to pay for some of it, the paperwork,
They want additional documentation.
then the documentation required is burdensome. And so you want to do this for your patients because you want to help them out, but at the same time, all it is just it's more and more of your time, and you only have so much time in the day.
Well, it really comes back to the way you feel about insurance in general. It should be for catastrophic,
not chronic issues.
or not even
day-to-day.
not for wellness either.
No, not at all. So I'm not a fan of the insurance model. I'm glad we got out of it. Bo has decided to play with his stuffed animal right now. He's slinging it on the floor. Bo, stop, please. So, and then also you might come across some, dang it, Bo, every time. You might come across some functional medicine practice who do participate in insurance. They do exist, but they also have other gigs that are supplementing the insurance model. A lot of them will have like spa services, IV nutrition therapies. Of course, there's supplement sales, aesthetic practices. Those are all cash cows. And so that's how they're supplementing their insurance side of the thing.
It has to be it has to be something that is not covered by insurance at all.
You can't be 1 foot in the insurance market, 1 foot out. That's not how the game works. And you will quickly understand how the insurance model really ties your hands if you want to start playing with them.
Yeah, we tried that, and we argued that you don't have a code for functional medicine, but there was enough with the lab overlap. They said, no, you either have to 100% participate in our program, or you cannot.
Yeah.
And we chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a controlling mechanism.
Yeah, so just whatever state you're in, just be very aware of the laws and how the insurance companies are running the show in your state. And I'm just telling you, I'd stay far away from it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. I feel like I'm getting in bed with the devil, you know? And so that's why I don't like it. I'm not a fan of sleeping with Satan. So, the cash model. I love it. It's simple. Cash is king. But people are still stuck on that whole copay mentality, you know, and when they're paying out of pocket, when they have insurance, it's a tough one to swallow.
Yep.
You know, and I hate it. I mean, they have these expensive insurance plans that they're forced to get, and they can't use it.
Now you can do standard labs.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
So, for us, we will allow our in-state Arkansas patients to use their insurance for standard labs that we may use. But for some of them, that is still not a good deal because their benefits don't really pay that much. They have an 80/20 lab benefit, and so we order these labs, and it costs them like $1,000. When if they would have just paid the cash rate for the same labs, it would have cost them less.
Yes.
So we're always trying to educate our patients on this issue about cash fee labs and their insurance benefits. So cash is king. I love it. It works well, except the fact that you are having to convince people that them spending their money, their out-of-pocket money with us is a good thing.
Well, this comes back to you have to watch.
It's an investment.
You have to watch our previous episodes about how to deal with insurance.
Yeah.
And if you're
There's
getting
some good ones.
if you're getting your insurance through work, and I know a lot of you are, that's why you want to use your insurance because
Right.
it's quote free.
Right.
And I think it's the practitioner cannot work in that model.
No, and I hate that, but it's just the way it's set up right now. I would love to be able to participate in the insurance market and let you use your insurance, but I cannot help you in that scenario, right? So that's my little take on the cash models. Then you have to consider brick and mortar buildings versus telemedicine. Okay, so we had a brick and mortar clinic for a long time, right? And
there are advantages to it.
There are.
People like it.
People like it, but a lot of people are getting used to these telemedicine visits now since the age of COVID, and they're finding out that they like it. You can just sit there in your sofa and your row with your coffee, and you can meet with your health coach or your clinician. People like it.
Yep.
And since we're dealing with chronic issues, it works well. Okay, and the technology has advanced a lot to where you can do it from your phone, your iPad, your computer, and even grandma can do it. We meet with grandmas all the time, and they do just fine.
Yep.
Okay, So, and then the brick and mortar, you got a lot of overhead that you need to consider. And just look what happened to the people with brick and mortar businesses this past year. At any time, the government can come in and just close you down. Or put up so many obstacles that you're just like, screw this, I'm not going to deal with it.
And so many of your patients are autoimmune. It's good for them not to expose themselves.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
Well, and it's harder for the elderly to get out and
Mhm.
about, and and then a lot of patients live far away from, your clinic. I don't know where you're going to be locating this, but if it is not in a major metropolitan area, you really need to consider doing telemedicine, because where your clientele going to come from,
It also helps with compliance. I mean, that's probably the biggest issue
Yeah.
you have. And life gets in the way, so the more barriers you can remove. Like, I just didn't have time to come into a visit. Well, or I was on vacation, I couldn't, or I was on a business trip.
Mhm.
It removes all those
does.
barriers, which it's human nature to put up barriers to prevent
Right.
doing things that are difficult.
Yeah, and your patients aren't having to drive, an hour and a half in to see you, or even 2 or 3 hours. We were having people travel that far to come see us when we were in Little Rock in our office. And so now they don't have to do that. They really like that aspect. And the people who had trepidation signing up and doing it for the first time, after that first encounter, they were like, oh, this is great. I like it.
And because of COVID, most states have relaxed their laws where this would be applicable everywhere. But you're going to have to keep checking on it, because there are some states that required, prior to this, they required a one-time
Face-to-face. Arkansas is not one of those.
Correct. So you just have to look at your own things.
Look at your laws.
And you may have to get creative to get around that. You may have to have some group meetings. And it seems crazy, but to keep an office for that, most of these people coming in for functional medicine.
And I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
The group meetings.
I'm messing up your sequence.
Well, because you don't know my sequence.
Well, you never share it.
Well, I shared it briefly with you.
Mm.
But I'm
Go ahead.
guiding you. I'm
All
guiding
right, go
you, Paul.
ahead. I'm just long ride for this one, folks.
No, I wanted you here because you've been an integral part of this whole thing since day one. So you have a lot to say. I know.
Yeah, you. Okay.
The marrying a doctor thing didn't turn out how Paul thought it was
It
going
was
to turn
not
out.
nearly as lucrative as I was hoping. It's been a big financial drain.
Unfortunately, I have principles, and he found that out real quick. But he's also happy that I do have principles. The other thing I want to talk about are health coaches. Use them. Hire one. You need them.
Mhm.
There was a poll at a conference I attended with a bunch of functional medicine practitioners, and they asked us about using health coaches and who should the patient be seeing the most. Overwhelmingly, everybody said the health coaches.
It comes back to compliance. You need to spend time.
Yeah, because this is about making lifestyle changes, all right? And the health coaches, that's what their specialty is. You give them their marching orders, and they make sure your patients understand them and stick with them. They're coaches.
That's the key, is they're coaches. They're good at removing barriers.
Mhm.
They're good at, people put up obstacles, and that's the coach's job to. I could be a health coach. I know what to tell them.
Mhm.
I'm just not that nice.
No, and
And that you need that coaching, that
if you want a drill sergeant for a health coach, then you might want to see Paul.
I think about putting a bio up like
You would actually be a good one, but not for everybody.
I'd make
So
some people cry.
yeah, you would probably make a few cry. But if you're like me, I had coaches. I played softball. I played all kind of sports, so I was used to just, that rough approach and suck it up and do what you got to do. So I would probably respond well to a coach like that, not from you, but from somebody else.
Gotcha.
So get yourself a health coach. I cannot stress this enough. You cannot do everything, nor should you be doing everything. You have to make the most efficient use of your human resources. Okay?
Yeah, using your most expensive item, a physician, to teach gluten sensitivity is not effective.
Or to teach somebody about an elimination reintroduction diet. That's not what a clinician should be doing. That's what your health coach needs to be doing. Okay, and then that frees you up so that you can do research and more of the and delve into the more complicated cases and try to figure out what's going on with some of these people. So that's the health coaches part. The business of running a business, and this is where Paul can really speak to this. Paul has a business background. I do not, and it's very obvious to him that I do not. But you know, I'm not terrible at it. It's the business of running a business. I'm a doctor. I want to do doctor things. I want to do functional medicine stuff. But there's a lot of, there's the advertising and marketing component. You got to do it. You got to get the word out that your business even exists. Okay. Then there's the accounting part, collecting the money, distributing the monies, paying the bills, all of that. Who's answering your phones? How are you going to handle the phone situation? We have my Aunt Faye handles our phone. So does Paul. Aunt Faye will kick up some of the clients for Paul to talk to, and so she has agreed to work with us. She just kind of hangs out in her condo in Georgia, and
she gets out and about.
She gets out and about. Oh, definitely, but she does it on her time where she's answering emails, handling a lot of the admin stuff, and then answering the phone. And we have tried to make this business as automated as possible because you have to. Otherwise, it will eat up all your profits if you hire this out for somebody.
So you have to think creatively. If you're going to do brick and mortar, you may want to share a receptionist with someone else. Or, we see offices that can be successful where they might have multiple disciplines under one roof.
Right.
You could be the functional medicine discipline, and you utilize.
And that would work well, I would think.
It does. There is no one way. Arkansas, because of the way the demographic here, you need to fish the whole state in order to have a functional medicine practice.
It's a small state, 3 million people.
Yep.
And a lot of those are,
we're one of the poorest states.
Can't afford our services no matter how low we might go. And that's something else we're going to talk about too, is how much are you going to charge. And then there's the oversight of your employees, the technical challenges that arise with all of this, the EMRs, the telemedicine,
still has to be HIPAA
the
compliant.
teleconferencing things, all the software services that you're going to have to use to do this. It's a big learning curve, and you have to learn it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just making sure that everything's HIPAA compliant. Simple things like, is your email HIPAA compliant? How are you going to communicate to the patient? You can't just text them things.
Right, you have to be aware of all of those laws, and it's just, you have to stay on top of it. And just know that when you sign on to do this, you are going to become a small business owner. Mm-hmm. And you're going to quickly find out that it is the government doesn't really like small business owners, or at least it doesn't seem like it, because they sure do put up a lot of roadblocks.
Well, it's just more things to do.
Yes, a lot of little.
She hates it, so she can
piddly things to do. I just feel like they insert their nose in my business when they don't need to be doing so.
Well, it doesn't add any value for sure.
No, it's a hindrance. So you'll have lots of frustrations with that, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's worth it. I hope it'll be worth it for you. I still find that it's worth it, So here's what we use, and this is how we have our business structured right now. And most of you already know this. We're 100% telemedicine. We have just switched to Serbo as our EMR, and we are ditching Practice Fusion and Living Matrix. They just were not, and even they were not meeting our needs as a functional medicine EMR. They weren't. It wasn't an EMR. Practice Fusion is an EMR, but it wasn't getting the job done. But Serbo doesn't meet our needs 100% either. There is no perfect functional medicine EMR on the market right now.
Serbo would be the closest. It's not cheap. So again, that's a
And Parsley Health uses Serbo. I don't know if you might be aware of what Parsley Health is. A functional medicine telemedicine business where they have functional medicine practitioners in all of the state, almost all of the states, probably.
It's very similar to our model.
It's very similar to our model.
A lot more successful.
Yeah, well, they also offer packages, which is something we'll talk about
Okay.
too. So we use Serbo. We use Zoom. They're HIPAA compliant version of Zoom, which is expensive. Hopefully we can get away from that soon because Serbo has a built-in teleconferencing, I guess you would say app or whatever.
It'll save some money. It's still.
But we're going to make sure that it works first before we get rid of Zoom right now. And then we use the Acuity Scheduler. It's right on our website. We have that right there where our clients can come in and schedule themselves. We have the intake forms that are automatically sent out to them that they complete, and they send them back to us, and it populates their chart. So that's a great tool that we use. And also collects their credit card payments right there on the spot as well. Okay, and then our clinicians and health coaches also have the ability to charge clients on the spot if they go over in time or something like that. We use Avexia Diagnostics as a third-party testing company. They offer a lot of standard labs from LabCorp. That are cash fee prices, and then they also supply all kinds of specialty testing kits for cash fee prices, and you can set your prices how you want for them to be set,
And they'll drop ship for you.
I'm a fan of Avexia Diagnostics. They've been very easy to work with.
Good company.
Good company, very responsive. We also use FullScript, which is an online dispensary. We have the little button on our page, so if you go through FullScript from our website, you get discounts that I've already established. If you go through my site, you get those discounts. But FullScript has it. If it's not on FullScript, it doesn't exist. I don't think.
They carry almost everything.
They carry almost everything. Yet we still carry our own line of products too. We made the choice to do that because we have the Total Gut Job program, and we wanted all of our products to have the same look and things like that. And I wanted to formulate some of my own products because I could not find what I felt was good for my patients on FullScript.
So we use a compounding pharmacy that we use for that. That there's certain volume hurdles you have to hit in order to make that effective. But yeah, your multivitamin is unlike anything.
It's the best one on the market by far.
Yeah, by far.
And I'm really, of course it's mine. You say, oh, you're biased, but no, it's a 4-in-1, and I made it that way because I didn't want to rip people off by making them buy 4 different products like a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. Are you going to have your own line of supplements? Do you want to even do that? That's a whole other side of the business, and Paul takes care of that, and he does an excellent job. Or you can just use FullScript. That's what a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do make a little bit of profit off that.
If
You
you're
can make
starting-
more or less. It just depends on where you want to set your discounts at.
If you're starting out, FullScript is definitely the way you want to
Yes, definitely. So look into FullScript. And they're a good company too. I've not had any problems with them as well. We also use MailChimp for if we want to send out mass emails. We've kind of backed off of that recently. We might start it back up at some time.
Because people get some emails.
I just don't want to bombard people with emails. I don't like getting them all the time.
They know how to find us.
But I get emails like from Mercola or Cresser. I like those. I like to see what they're doing, what they're up to. What?
Our open rate's not that great.
Huh?
Our opening rate. People you get the rules of who opens.
Oh yeah, we can tell who opens
And
it.
so
It's not that good, and we just stopped doing it because it's just money that we were spending every month that really wasn't paying off. We used Google Ads for a while. They are very expensive, and we stopped using them, and it did not affect our business.
I think we'd get people who they'd put down they found us through Google, but they're still finding us through Google.
Yeah.
So it didn't make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
This is where it goes about having another job to begin with, where you can build your business slowly, because word of mouth is still by far the number one referral we get is word of mouth.
Yes.
The second one would probably be the IFM website.
Yeah, once you become certified, they will put your name on the website. So if people are looking for somebody in Arkansas, you'll come up.
Yep.
And then, of course, we use Rock Street Associates for our website. All right.
Rock 2.
Rock 2. Sorry. What's Rock Street? Something. Rock 2. I am so sorry. So, did I leave out anything? Are there any other little software programs that we use day to day
Well,
for the clinic practice?
Not for the clinic, it'd be for the shipping
For the-
side.
yeah.
There's-
Like I said, the supplement side is a whole other business in itself.
I think the main takeaway is that think about the business side before investing on all the certification, because people immediately want to go for the certification and the learning process, which is great if you still want to just do that.
Well, you
But
need to.
You need to think about the business side. How am I going to do this? You know, there are a few clinics that do hire. So if you live in an urban area, there are career paths to work for other functional medicine doctors, and
Right.
that is one path. If you're in a smaller state like Arkansas, then you're usually going to have to do it on your own because there's no one
There's
established.
nobody else.
There's no one established. And at that point, that's kind of who we're addressing now, where it's difficult. And it's not difficult. I mean, I'm not trying to discourage you. Just go into it eyes wide open. Same thing with the health coaching. People fall in love with the concept of health coaching, but how are you going to deliver your product?
How are you going to make a business out of
Yeah,
it?
how are you going to differentiate yourself?
You really need to think through.
And frankly, I think if I was purchasing a health coach, I would want one through a physician that would have access to a
Right.
physician, because you need the triage process. The health coaches can handle
A lot of things.
70, 80%,
Yep.
great. And then you have Dr. Kiner underneath you, who's
Yep.
great, and she can take it to the level, and then you're kind of that backstop for all the most difficult ones, and even a few things get past you.
Mhm.
Because you said, you always say you're not going to cure everyone.
No, and I'm going to talk. I'll mention that as well. So,
That's-
yeah, think about the business. Just really think it through. What and when you think about what you're going to charge, where are you located, and who's your competition? Here in Arkansas, you just simply are not going to be able to charge what people are charging in the big cities and on the coast. I know everybody looks at their prices and like, wow, they make a ton. Well, I mean, are they booking back to back to back? You know? Because, I mean, when you start doing these functional medicine consults, you can't see 10 patients a day.
No.
I can't. It wears me out.
Well, remember, there's so much time behind the scenes, so you can't if you put in 40 hours of FaceTime, you're going to need another 40, 50.
20 hours at least of non-FaceTime just for your documentation and research of all these things.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to think about what a realistic caseload every day looks like for you. And I can tell you right now, 5 patients a day for me, I don't want to talk anymore.
Well,
And some of them could be follow-up, some of them could be brand new patients. It kind of matters what kind of complicated patients they are. But you'll soon find out that it's a lot of work on the brain.
well, and what is the purpose for your business? Okay, so when Amy and I started thinking about that, it's like she says, I want to bring functional medicine to the flyover country,
Yeah.
which is basically,
The forgotten people.
yeah, everyone between the coasts. So we built the model that way. We built it lean so we could keep our prices low. Frankly, I think we could have probably doubled our prices and only lost maybe 30%. Because there's so many people who still come to us and say, you're so inexpensive. So
And then there's some who are like, man, that's a lot of money. And I just like, just compare us to other functional medicine practice. Just go to this website and take a look at what these people are charging and then get back with us.
point being is that when you choose your price point, as a business model, and I could have pushed back, but you said you wanted to bring functional medicine to as many people as possible. So that was the mission statement. If it had been truly just a business decision, I would have pushed you to say, no, we're going to triple our rates, take that crowd that's not going to leave anyhow, and keep the business model much simpler, and it would have been more profitable. But then you would have left out
A lot of people, and I just did not want to do that.
Right. So what is your purpose of your model? Is it to bring it? And it's not a bad thing to service those people. Because people, if you make a martyr of yourself and you're miserable, you still have to, at the end of the day, make a living. So think about these type things.
Because there's a lot of work that goes on, like, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes and not during that face-to-face interaction. And you have to account for that time,
Mm-hmm.
because it will add up.
Yep.
It adds up real, real quick. So kind of the job duties in our practice, we've got Paul, I call him my patient liaison, because when people reach out to me on Facebook or whatever, and they'll tell me, their problems, and they're kind of wondering about what they should do, and I'm like, just call Paul. Tell him what your concerns are. First of all, go to the website and just look at how we work. Because if you're not into that, then don't even bother Paul. So I tell them to go to the website first, and if they still have questions, then they call you. And Paul also handles a lot of the technical stuff that sometimes can go wrong. Hannah also helps out.
Hannah really helps.
Hannah,
she's so much smarter.
God, thank you for sending Hannah
young
into
people.
Our lives. Hannah walked into my office several years ago wanting to just work for us for free. She just wanted to, and
now she could ask us, pay us this, and we would say yes.
Yeah, now she can get whatever she wants. She's just been a big blessing. She's not only is she she's a very smart, compassionate individual, but she's just got a lot of skills, and we thank God that we have her on our side. Amy Hale, another blessing. I mean, she's just the most awesome health coach out there. Mm-hmm. I've known Annie for a long time, and so she's, our fantastic health coach, Dr. Kynard, handles a lot of the clinical parts. Mm-hmm. We have a thyroid program, and she sees a lot of those patients. She and the health coaches work together a lot. And then I am there to kind of oversee the operation. And whenever questions, concerns arise with patients, they come to me. Or if there's some type of complicated issue where they've tried everything, nobody knows what's going on, then I come into the picture. Okay? And then, of course, people can see me if they want to. But I'm not going to be giving you talking about candida diets or anything like that. It's just more of these bigger conceptual type meetings, second opinions, and things like that. Advertising and marketing, that's something you need to consider. How are you going to get the word out? I've already mentioned this briefly, but social media is going to be your best friend. Learn how to use it, learn how to use it well, and stick with it. Be consistent. Sometimes life gets in the way, and it's hard to do that. You'll get burned out. It's like, why do I want to post today? I feel like I talk about this all the time. And what you'll find is that there's so many things that are familiar to you, but it's not familiar to your audience and your followers. So some of this stuff you feel like like the back of your hand, but your followers don't. And you're always gradually picking up new followers, and they may have never seen that information. At least that's what I struggle with. Because I feel like it's boring, and everybody's like, oh, I had no idea. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So this interests you. All right. We'll talk about some gut health some more. I feel like that's all I'll talk about. And then health fairs, don't even, just don't.
We try.
Business fairs, business expos. I mean, we did those, and we might have picked up a couple of patients doing them, but it was just not worth it. At least I don't think it was.
Well, it's changing. When we started, functional medicine was not a known entity, so you had to introduce them to the concept, and then you try to sell them on you.
Yeah, we were able to sell the concept of functional medicine.
So now people are looking. It's getting easier because now functional medicine, which that name's been adulterated also, just like the integrative or holistic.
Everybody's calling themselves that, and there's like zero certification to back it up. And I know there's some doctors here in the state that call them functional medicine doctors, and they know just enough to be dangerous, and they're ripping people off. And I'm not going to say who, but I know what's happening.
If they're not certified, and there's not a certified MD on the staff, you should be wary.
Yes, just because they say they're functional medicine and they offer you these fancy tests does not mean that they're qualified to take care of you. Okay, so don't be enamored with all the fancy tests that they like to run. Very expensive, a lot of them, and think that that's functional medicine. And they just throw some supplements at you and some tests. That is not functional medicine at all.
Well,
and you're giving us a bad name. I wish you'd stop that.
Well, it's IFM's fault because they allow the certification process to be too broad.
Well, and that's a whole other discussion. So radio and TV shows, I did them. You know, I remember us getting up at 4:30 in the morning so we can get dressed and drive into Little Rock to be on Channel 7 for some type of morning show. Remember doing that?
Yeah, but they give you so little time.
And she was wanting free Botox for it. Seriously, that's what it came down to. Now I know why they approached me.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, I've done some radio shows. They were fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now
the stuff with Dave Ellswick was a lot of fun.
With Dave, it was a lot of fun. And it's just a good play. If you just want to talk about functional medicine, get the word out, and do it as a public service, then great. Go on some radio shows, I did it more for the cause than anything. And I like talking to Dave. So when you're on social media, be prepared to be trolled. It's just going to happen. And when the first time it happened and it's really bad, it's going to freak you out. Because it's like, oh my goodness, all these people are saying such hateful things about me, and they're pulling up stuff on my website and trying to smear me with it and calling me a quack. And just, the first time it happened to me, I had to spend a whole day blocking them. There were that many coming after me. It was an organized troll attack. But if you're not getting trolled, you're not doing it right.
Well, there's certain topics that are more controversial that'll bring them out.
Absolutely. And I found out quickly what those topics were. And in fact, right now, I can't post anything on Facebook for 3 days. So, again.
Because of a meme.
Because of a meme. It was an awesome meme, too. And they just did not like it. Word of mouth, at the end of the day, is your best form of advertisement. Mm-hmm. That's how we get most of our clients. Word of mouth. And referrals. We've started finally picking up referrals from a lot of physicians and other healthcare professionals who are sending their patients to us, and we really appreciate that.
Yep.
They have our trust, and that means a lot. When you get those referrals from other health professionals, you're like, that feels good. Like, finally, we got some people on our side now. Yep. That's real good. We also, Paul and I chose to do this podcast, which is great if you actually do a podcast and actually sit down and do episodes, which we were really good at first.
It's just, we'll get back into it.
But we'll get back into it. It's been tough. This year's been tough.
It's more of a mental thing.
It is a mental thing. The startup cost for your podcast, not terribly expensive, but don't buy it if you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you have to buy, equipment plus all the software stuff. And
I mean, it's pretty minimal, but if you want the audio to be good, it costs under $1,000.
But it's a great way to reach an audience and grow your practice if you had a really good podcast.
Because you cannot go over complicated topics on Facebook.
You can't. No way.
We did Facebook Lives, and we finally realized that no one was watching past like minute 13.
Yeah.
And we did some that were 45 minutes. It's like, okay.
We really got into some of them. We had a lot to say.
Well, they were in depth, and so it's just not a forum where they want to consume that. Where podcast, they are. It's more, okay, I'm going to spend 30, 40 minutes with someone.
But podcasts take time to do them well.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot of improvement there in that area where we just need to treat it like a job and do a better job at doing some research for our podcast and all that. So here's what I would do differently if I could do it all over. All right, we're getting down to the end, Paul. So Paul's dying to make some fish tacos. I would do telemedicine from the get-go. Okay, would have done it from the get-go. Would have used health coaches from the get-go. Okay. I would have I did this, and I think I did a pretty good job, but work at growing your social media presence. There's some things I could do, but I'm not one of those cutesy people. I don't like dancing around on TikTok or Instagram and with all the sparkles and stuff going everywhere. That's not me. I mean, I have made some videos in the past just because it was my creative outlet and it was funny and it made people laugh. But definitely get smart with the social media. Make things as automated as possible. Okay? pretty charts and graphs are great, but at the end of the day, people just want to feel better. Okay? Delegate, delegate, delegate. Use your human resources effectively and efficiently.
That means dump it on your spouse.
Who does such a great job. Find a niche. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Functional medicine is too broad. There's so many ways you can go within the functional medicine model. You can have little specialties, which is kind of feels weird because, I hate dividing things into, we're not dividing them into organs per se, but you almost have to reach an audience, because people just don't understand that everything's related. They like to focus on, I've got a thyroid problem, I have IBS, I have eczema, I'm a hormone patient. And as much as you are going to don't want to treat people like that, because that's kind of what functional medicine functional medicine changes your whole approach, and you start seeing that the thyroid condition is the same thing as the same thing causing the thyroid problems, same thing as causing the IBS, same thing causing the depression. They're all related. And so as much as you don't want to divvy them up into those diagnoses, it's almost like you have to bring in the business, because that's how people think about health. That's how they've been trained to
At
think.
least the way you're talking to them. So you're marketing in those terms.
Right.
Still
Yes, marketing in those terms, but treating them as the whole patient, which is it's difficult to do, and you'll soon find that out. I would do group meetings from the get-go. I think group meetings are where it's at. We're still we have a health coach who is working on doing that, working with prenatal health and nutrition, getting your body ready for baby. And she's going to be offering some group meetings, I hope, real soon for that. And then we might expand that to other groups. I think it's we kind of do that with our total gut job.
Yeah, you have to.
And it's goes over very well.
It has to be the more general topics that you group into groups, because it'd be difficult to get unless you're in a big, unless you have unlimited patients, which is not the case. But it's hard to get enough for a thyroid group or an IBS group by itself.
And then everybody has different causes and mediators, so it's really can be difficult to do that. So those group meetings would need to be very specific things. And not everything lends itself to a group meeting. I'd also do programs. People like programs. And they like memberships because they know exactly how much it costs. Whereas the way we do it right now, it's like, well, how much is this going to cost me? And we're like, we don't really know. We don't know how complicated you are. We don't know if you're going to be compliant or not. We don't know you, so it's hard for us to say how much it's going to cost you. We can kind of give you some generalities. It typically costs this much for this patient. We can give you that. So that's why it's got us considering doing programs, because people like to know how much exactly this is going to cost them, so they can budget appropriately.
It's really not changing anything. You're just changing the approach to billing.
Right.
So over the next 6 months, it'll cost this much. And typically within 6 months is how much time it takes.
Right.
Which is exactly the same thing I tell them now.
Right.
It just, because they're still going to have to add things. It's
Right.
just, I always say people will spend $1,000, no problem, but they have trouble spending $200 5 times.
Right.
It's just that.
It is. It's just a little mental.
I want to know what I want to get to the bottom line.
Right. So that's something you will struggle with, but all of the practices do. Okay. And then don't waste all your patients' money on expensive testing that won't change what you do. Your patients have a finite amount of money that they are willing to spend, and I would make sure that you help them spend it wisely. And if you have a new patient, don't spend all their money the first visit ordering $1,000 worth of expensive tests. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake, because most of them, if you look at what they're doing, it's obvious to see that their diet is horrible. They're stressed out. They're on these medications. They're not sleeping. So that's where you start with the lifestyle stuff. And usually that works their health issues out when you start having them address those lifestyle issues and have them make the right changes, and then their problems start going away, and then you realize you don't need to order all those expensive tests, even though your patients, a lot of them want them, and you have to sometimes like talk them out of it.
Yes,
But if they're adamant, they're like, I don't care how much they cost, I want to know. I'm like, all right, let's go spend your money.
but as soon as they do the basics, those labs change.
Right.
So that's what you have to explain to them. It's like, we can do them now, but we're going to have to do them again.
But and I tell them, it's not going to change what I want you to do right now. I know your stool study is going to come back looking like doo-doo, no pun intended. And I know your hormone levels are going to be all jacked up. I know this. I can hear your symptom. You're telling me your symptoms. I know what I'm going to see. And you're still drinking Diet Cokes, and you're stressed out, and you're taking ibuprofen every day, and you're never exercising. And you've got a lot. Those things just, you've got a lot to work on lifestyle wise. So that's that piece of advice. And then, like Paul said, don't quit your day job. You have to grow your practice, and maybe yours will grow quicker than mine did. I hope it does, because I still work part-time job. Even after, we've been doing this for a while.
Well, you're
but we've had different renditions. We have,
Yeah, we had
a lot of changes.
Yeah,
Trying to find our way.
Well, you had to find your way. You had different ideas of what you wanted to do, and those things have changed. But
there was nobody guiding us.
no,
There's no business plan for a functional medicine practice.
it's starting. You'll start to, this is things like this, or
Right.
people are putting it out. It's by keeping your day job, you're practicing what you preach, because you must reduce your stress levels. If you bank everything on this,
Oh, you will be so stressed out.
yeah. So it takes
You're like, oh, can I pay my grocery bill this?
it takes time to build by word of mouth, and
Yeah.
if you allow for that transition, and also it's kind of a quality of life. You kind of see both sides.
Right.
It's hard to do functional medicine. That's your only job, because it's draining.
Well, and we had our finances in line. Paul, a lot of people don't realize Paul's been subsidizing this business for a long time, and works basically for free. We don't have a lot of bills. We made sure we took care of all that.
Mhm.
And so we don't need to make a lot of money. And our goal, we have our financial goals, which I think are very modest, especially for a doctor and an engineer. And so it kind of depends on what your financial goals are, how much you think you want to make, how much is it going to, take to pay your bills. And I don't know what your bills are, but, I had student loans that, thank goodness I paid off with the help of Paul. So anyway, simplify your life, because there's a lot of stuff that you're probably spending your money on that you don't need to. And so I would encourage you to simplify as much as possible, get your bills down to a minimum, and keep your day job while you grow your practice.
I think it's sound advice.
All right. Well, and then I will end with this. Don't think you can cure every single patient, because you can't. And that's okay.
This comes back to what you're talking about, the stress, because you'll
Yes,
worry yourself.
You'll worry, because you will sit there like, what's wrong with this patient? I don't know why they're not getting better. There are patients that you're going to have that simply don't get better. Okay?
Not
No
many.
matter what you do, they don't get better. And it's hard to swallow. Don't make it. It's not a reflection on you as a clinician. It's just there's just things that we don't know yet about the human body, and and so don't take it too hard. Don't be too hard on yourself when you encounter that patient that whatever you've done, it just doesn't help, because they still do appreciate the fact that you're trying. Even I've had those patients where they were like just scratching their heads. Both of us are researching, we can't figure it out. But you know what? They appreciated the fact that I at least cared enough to keep trying
And to listen.
and to listen. You know, because there's toxin exposures and all kinds of things that have happened to people that they aren't aware of, and neither are you.
Or people come to us who are aware of the toxin exposure, and there's just nothing we can do
And
about
nothing
it.
we can do about it. Yeah, there's some things that have caused permanent damage to people. Not that you can't overcome that, because the good Lord can overcome everything. You know, but it's just accept the fact that you cannot bat 1,000 with functional medicine or any type of medicine.
Okay.
All right, that's all we got for you. I hope you found it informative. And if you have questions, you know how to reach me. Facebook Messenger. That's where a lot of you guys reach out to me, or you send me messages on our Facebook page, which is fine. I like helping you guys who want to get into this, because we need you. Our society needs you.
Yeah, the more you spread the word, at some point in the future, there'll be enough functional medicine doctors where hopefully there can be some forums where you start sharing these difficult cases,
Right.
and there'll be research on it. But
And there's some forums where we can do that. IFM offers that as well. All right, guys, that's it for now. We will talk to you soon, I hope.
yes.
All right, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
I don't take nothing that a doctor don't prescribe. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't smoke no bud, man. I don't do no drugs, man. It angers up that blood, man, so I don't do no drugs.